next 4 years, we can indeed predict a very catastrophic period within the history of this country. Black and brown and Asian and Native American people have always been the first victims of oppression and repression in this country. But I think that white people in this country, particularly white working people, should begin to understand that they too are exploited and they too can be victims of repression. On many occasions in the past, and especially during this recent period after the elections, I have used the word fascism. I have talked about an increasingly fascist danger which people in this country must begin to come to grips with. Some people have accused me of using rhetoric which doesn't have any basis in reality. But I think that we have to be very serious during these very critical moments. We have to understand that there is indeed a very real danger, menace of fascism in the United States today. I do not think that we have already entered into a period of full-blown fascism, because fascism is not something that suddenly explodes and erupts into being. If we look back into the history of the world, if we look at countries like Germany, Spain, Italy, we see that fascism is a process. It's something that grows and develops. It's like a cancer. It starts attacking one group of people, but like a cancer, it begins to spread out with a fatal rapidity, and eventually, like a cancer, it destroys everything around it. Once fascism does consolidate itself, and I think again we have to look towards the past, look at those countries where fascism did develop into its full-blown state. Once this happens, there is no possibility of resisting it and defeating it from within. Look at what happened to Germany. Look at Italy. It was always defeated from without. And I would ask you to tell me one thing. If you can conceive of such a fascist order developing in this country, who would liberate us? Who would be able to liberate a country whose government possesses enough weaponry and enough nuclear capability to destroy every single person in the world many times over? And I know many of you probably do not agree with me that we are embarking upon a period which could lead in the direction of fascism. But I would urge upon you to weigh what I'm going to say very seriously, because your fate may very well depend upon it. If we look to fascist countries in the past, one of the things that becomes very clear is that the government or the class in power has always sought ways and means to divide the people. And when you talk about divide and rule, divide and conquer, that's one of the age-old strategic themes of oppressors and exploiters. And it's within this context that I want to say a few words about racism. Racism as it affects, in the first place, black people, Chicanos, Puerto Ricans, Native American, Asians. And racism as it also affects those white people who become its unwitting pawns, its unwitting weapons, its unwitting instruments. I don't think that too many people would disagree that there was indeed a lot of racism in Tricky Dick Nixon's campaign. That indeed I don't think that very many people would disagree that there was some kind of attempt to pit white people against black people. Look at the statement that he made about busing. And look what followed that statement. The events in Canarsie, New York, Brooklyn, where white adults threw stones in Canarsie, New York. White adults threw stones at black and Puerto Rican children and threw eggs in their faces, spat on them, and called them all kinds of vicious, racist names. And I think we have to understand the connection between that statement that Nixon had made only a short while previous to that and what happened in Canarsie. And I think we have to understand the connection between the kinds of things that Richard Nixon has been saying and what happened yesterday at Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You see, it is no accident that precisely at this moment we appear to be returning back to Little Rock, Arkansas. We are returning back to Orangeburg, because Orangeburg preceded Kent. You know, black students had been killed already in a protest situation before these students at Kent State were killed. But because of the racism that is so deeply embedded in this country, the reaction came only when white students were killed.